So this week we watched 4 videos: Origins of Authentic Pedagogy, Analyzing Authentic Pedagogy Part 1 and Part 2, Critiques of Authentic Pedagogy. So to talk about Origins of Authentic Pedagogy, I thought this one was the most interesting because I like learning about ideas that people had in the past. I think it's interesting. So we had Rousseau, Montessori, John Dewey, A.S. Neal, and Tagore. All 5 of them started a school in their own way, and I kind of group Rousseau, Montessori, and A.S. Neal into um, kind of a similar category, and John Dewey and Tagore into another one, and I'll explain why. So Rousseau, he wanted kids to he wanted kids to reason things out for themselves, and he was convinced that the kid will figure things out. And then Montessori built a school, and she was a proponent of tangible education. So like real world experiences that make the kids be able to wrap their head around the idea of what's being taught. And A.S. Neal, he built a school that I thought was the most interesting and I would have liked to attend, which had no rules. Kids could choose what they wanted to do. It was called Summerhill. So I grouped these 3 into their own kind of group because I feel like they were about the kids will figure things out and they need to be the people that are interested in what they're doing. And I think that if you're put in an environment where you can learn and you see other people wanting to learn and it's not forced upon you, that you will be more invested in it. And I think that naturally, if eventually you're going to reach a point where you want to learn something, and I think that's probably when you should start trying to pursue that, not being told what to do. And then I grouped John Dewey and Tagore into another group, and I think of their style as kind of like a trade school. They were John Dewey was like do things that were relevant to the world, so like teaching them to sew, so they go in factories, and similarly Tagore was teaching people about how to farm and agriculture and stuff like that. So things that they would be doing, but with those 2, that's kind of generalizing and putting people into kind of a social bracket. So people that are on the top, they stay on the top. People on the bottom would stay on the bottom. So I think trade schools are great, though. I think they are. And then secondly, we watched Authentic Pedagogy Part 1. He had 9 different frames. So in the first one, he talked about architectonic, discursive, intersubjective, sociocultural. Basically, authentic pedagogy, the classrooms are set up differently. They're set up into groups, and this allows the kids to talk to each other, and the students are invested in their learning more, and because they're active, they're not just sitting listening to a lecture, and it helps kids interact and build relationships, and it helps with assimilation. And then the third video that we watched was Authentic Pedagogy Part 2. We talked about the last 4 or 5, 1, 2, 4. We talked about proprietary, epistemological, pedagogical, and moral. So, proprietary, students are doing their work more interactive, kind of what we said in Part 1. Epistemological, I really like this part because it was the students are reading authentic text, they're researching, discussing, doing experiments, taking field trips, problem solving, and doing projects. So what this does, it leads to the moral part of bullet point, which is participatory citizenship, where the student is learning that um, he or she has to carry their own weight and not just be a bump on a log. And also, what I like about the epistemological bullet point that he talked about was that all these things that they're doing are things that you have to do in the real world. So it's teaching them to research and discuss and figure things out, and experiments. You're learning about science, but the same method. So I think that'd be great to teach kids all the way up. Um, and then my the critiques of authentic pedagogy. Most of the critiques were basically that it needs more structure, and direct instruction is more efficient, and that's basically what it was talking about. But like I said in my discussion post, that this authentic pedagogy basically reminds me of uh, 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 apprenticeship. So in an apprenticeship, you're immersed. You don't have to know anything about it, but you gradually pick things up along the way by being immersed in it and having to do things. And then when you're needed to, you're instructed by whoever's in charge. And I think that it will work. But yes, instruction and structure and direct instruction is also useful.